apparently a mother, a father, and a 4-year-old child. The 18-wheeler hit the car, forced it over up onto the guardrail, and eventually it fell in between the two sides of Interstate 10 onto the shores of the channel down below. The 4-year-old was dead at the scene. The driver, the father, was life-flighted, and I don't have an update on his condition, but obviously very serious injuries. And the mother was transported to the hospital by the sheriff's department to go be with her husband.
The 18 driver is going to be facing some charges?
We're way too early to talk about charges in this case. You know, in some cases it's pretty clear cut. In this case, we don't know yet. We've got to do a lot of different investigative avenues. We've got to look at speeds. We've got to download things. We have some video from the truck. The truck driver is being cooperative. We've got to get toxicology on everybody. There's no indication that impairment played a role in this, but we're going to rule it out before we rule it in. So, you know, this is just the beginning of this, and really, we can't lose sight of the fact that a little 4-year-old lost his life or her life today. And these take some added significance. Obviously, when you stand over the bodies of little children like that, it should sharpen your focus.
This is obviously tragic, but do we know if the little girl was sitting in a chair like every 4-year-old should be?
Right. So that is going to be part of the investigation. I was just down there as the sheriff's department took the car and towed it, and we looked in it, and we couldn't find any car seats. So that's part of the investigation. At the very least, this should be a reminder to everyone out there. We're in the middle of Click It or Ticket month with TxDOT. Restrain your children, restrain yourselves, restrain everybody, but make sure that all the little ones are in the proper car seats, because we don't know whether or not she would have lost her life had she been properly restrained, but it certainly wouldn't have hurt. And she's lost her life, and so we don't have any car seats or anything of that nature to say that she was at this point. So the indicators are that she wasn't, but we're going to confirm that before we're definitive.
Do we know why the car stopped so suddenly in front of the 18-wheeler?
We're in the process right now, the sheriff's department is, of looking at all the video. I've watched some of it already. It appears that it was a normal traffic, merging of 2 or 3 cars, and anybody that's driven in Houston knows that happens all the time. This is just one of those convergence of events that ended in a horrible tragedy. But as of right now, it doesn't look like anyone was grossly negligent or reckless. But before we make that statement for sure, we're gonna make sure.
It's only the 18-wheeler and the one that fell involved, not of the third vehicle or anything, right?
Right. No other vehicle came into contact with those 2 cars. It was the 18-wheeler that sideswiped or ran into the Mitsubishi Eclipse. Other cars played a role in causing those 2 cars to take the evasive actions that they did, but no one else was actually involved in the crash.
Did that driver stop and help with the investigation as well?
The 18-wheeler driver did. The truck driver did not. And there's no indication that truck driver was even aware that anything happened at the time. So, that's all part of the investigation. We're going to talk to everybody that we can. Anybody that was a witness to this, call the sheriff's department.
What is in the state of Texas for, the cutoff for a child to be restrained in a car seat?
It is more of a weight issue than it is an age. But the good guidelines are that at the very least, a booster seat, for a 4 to 6-year-old is absolutely required. Just as an aside for me, my kids are in 5-point harnesses until they're 6. So, there's a minimum standard, and it doesn't appear that was even met in this case.
Sean, for live streaming purposes, can you talk a little bit about what you said in the beginning again, about the details of the accident that you know so far?
Yeah, so far we know that an 18-wheeler was westbound on Interstate 10 here at the Crosby-Lynchburg exit. Because of traffic slowing down in front of him, he had to take evasive action from lane 2 into lane 1, closest to the guardrail. And in so doing, he hit a Mitsubishi Eclipse, forced it over the guardrail, and tragically it fell directly in between the eastbound and westbound lanes of Interstate 10 onto the banks of the channel right there. And a little 4-year-old was dead at the scene.
Now, investigators told us earlier that the mom had told them that they had just moved from Honduras to give their daughter a better life, knowing those details. And I know you see these tragic scenes all the time. I mean, what are your thoughts right now?
It just, as I said before, it's tragic. It's tragic anytime someone loses their life on the roads because it's so random. But when you have little ones like this, it should sharpen all of our focus, and it does. We stand over these bodies as they're removed, and it's absolutely tragic. And I don't know yet. I haven't spoken to anyone, any of the family members involved. But at the end of the day, if that is true, and that's what I've heard as well, can you imagine the just sheer tragedy and horrific action that this is?
And you said at this point no one is at fault as of yet. The
We haven't-
investigation is just starting.
Right. We haven't made a fault decision. In a situation like this, someone is at fault. Someone lost their life. There is blame to be laid. Whether or not that rises to the level of a felony criminal action is something that we're not ready to even speculate on at this point. But rest assured, every stone will be overturned. We're going to download all of the cars involved. We're going to look at every piece of evidence we can, and eventually we will all come to a decision, us, the Sheriff's Department, as to what, if any, charges are appropriate.
Your name again, just
Appreciate it, Sean. Thank you.
Sure, it's Sean Teare, Seanteare, Chief of the Harris County DA's Office Vehicular Crimes Division.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sean.
Wonderful.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Thank you all. Appreciate the teamwork on that.
Sure.
I hate it. It's such a pain now. We have all these problems with the free. Do you guys have that problem with your wirelesses? Or you guys know? Something about our block of frequencies.
Yeah.
And sometimes it starts to break up. Like, oh. Other times it works.